The moment I answered the phone, I heard his voice crack before he even formed a full sentence. "And what the hell did you say to them?" Brendan Ashford, the chief executive officer's son, was yelling so loudly it sounded like he was standing in my kitchen instead of miles across Portland. I stared at the blinking call timer as if it might explain how any of this was possible. I had been awake for barely 10 minutes. I had not spoken to a single person since leaving Solon Systems the day before. And somehow, he was already unraveling. "Brendan," I said slowly, my voice hoarse from a sleepless night. "I have no idea what you're talking about." He let out a sharp, broken breath. The kind people make when they realize they have lost control of something vital. "Do not play dumb with me. They called us at dawn. They want answers. They want documentation. They want you." His volume rose with every word, panic leaking through each syllable. I pressed the phone to my ear, trying to steady myself. "I have not spoken to anyone," I said again, "not a single person." "That is impossible," he snapped. "You must have said something, you—" His voice cracked, strained. And then there was a muffled scuffle on the other end of the line, as if someone had entered his office. He hissed something I could not make out, then came back sounding even more frantic. "Whatever you did, fix it. Now." I closed my eyes. The last 24 hours had already torn a hole straight through my life, 21 years at the company gone in 1 minute. And my $300,000 retirement bonus snatched away as casually as someone throwing out yesterday's mail. I had not laughed, had not slept, had barely even spoken. And yet here he was terrified, because something had happened that he could not control. "Brendan," I said quietly, "I have nothing to fix." The line went silent except for his shaky breathing. Then he ended the call without a word. I stood in my kitchen, the phone still warm in my hand, realizing the night after my firing had been quiet only for me. For the company, something had already begun to burn. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at Revengeaita. Each story carries its own message, voice, and emotional spine crafted uniquely for this narrative and not repeated across any others. I checked the time on my monitor for what felt like the 100th time. 24 hours, I whispered. The words tasted unreal. After 21 years at Solon Systems, I had finally reached the finish line. One more day and the $300,000 bonus would land in my account. One more day and I could step away from the endless grind of Portland's tech world. One more day and I could move my mother out of that cramped duplex in Eugene and give her the medical help she had been postponing for years. Mara, one of the junior analysts I had mentored, stopped by my desk with a mug in her hand. "You look lighter than usual," she said. "Something good." I let myself smile. "Tomorrow is my last milestone. After that, I'm free." Her eyebrows lifted. "You mean free as someone who has lived inside this building longer than she lived with her husband," I said. The joke came out soft, but the truth behind it hung between us. She knew my history, how late nights had piled up until my marriage cracked under the weight of another crisis call. Mara rested a hand on the edge of my desk. "I hope they appreciate what you gave this place." "Appreciation is optional," I replied. "Finishing strong is not." Behind us, I heard the click of polished shoes. Brendan Ashford strode past with that familiar blend of arrogance and entitlement. He did not look at me, and I did not expect him to. He never had much use for people who actually built the systems he took credit for. Mara lowered her voice. "He's been tense all morning." "He's always tense," I said. "That is not my problem anymore." She nodded and left for her meeting, and I returned to my work, steady and hopeful. I had no idea the next signature placed in front of me would erase everything I had spent 2 decades building. I had barely finished reviewing the morning reports when Brendan Ashford pushed open my office door without knocking. His voice arrived before his expression did, sharp, impatient, already carrying the tone of a man who believed he owned every room he entered. "Anne," he said, dropping a folder onto my desk. "Sign this." I looked up. "What is it?" He leaned back like the answer bored him. "Termination notice, effective immediately." The words landed so cleanly that for a moment I thought I had misheard. "Termination, Brendan. My transition plan is already approved. The bonus is scheduled for tomorrow." "That was the plan," he replied, his smirk tightening. "But plans change." I kept my voice steady. "For what reason?" "No reason you need to worry about." He tapped the folder. Just sign. He said it like I was an inconvenience he was clearing off his desk. No explanation, no acknowledgement of 21 years of work, just a dismissal timed with surgical precision. I opened the folder. There it was, a single page. My name typed neatly at the top, the date stamped bold across the header. 24 hours before my bonus would mature. 24 hours before $300,000 would secure my retirement and my mother's care. Brendan, I said quietly, this timing is none of your business. He cut in. You are done here. The finality in his voice wasn't confidence, it was satisfaction. I picked up the pen. My hand trembled, not with shame, but from the exhaustion of years spent propping up a company that had never once paused to look back at the people holding it together. As I pressed my signature onto the page, Brendan exhaled like a man who believed he had outplayed someone. Leave your badge with HR, he said. They'll escort you out. I closed the folder, stood, and walked past him without another word. I did not look back. I set the cardboard box on my kitchen table and lifted the lid with a kind of numb obedience. Pens, notebooks, an old badge, a photo of my mother from a decade ago. Each item felt like a small bruise. 21 years condensed into a box that barely weighed anything. When my phone buzzed, I ignored it. I was too tired to explain what had happened. Instead, I opened my laptop and began sorting through the digital folders I had carried with me from project to project. I told myself it was just housekeeping, but the truth was quieter. I needed something that reminded me my work had mattered. Halfway through an archive labeled Legacy Systems, I found an email thread I had forgotten about. It was from 5 years earlier, sent during a grueling negotiation with our largest client. I clicked it open. Anne, my former director, had written, please document the continuity requirements and attach them for legal review. Beneath it was my reply, a detailed explanation of a clause requiring my involvement or a formally approved replacement for any major system transition. If the company failed to notify the client had the right to freeze the entire deal until compliance was restored. I read the line twice, then a third time. My breath tightened. Brendan had fired me without a single notification sent to anyone. He had torn my name out of the transition plan less than 1 day before the final integration review. And according to this clause, that decision could halt a contract worth more than most apartments generated in a year. A knock sounded on my door. My neighbor called my name softly, but I couldn't answer. I sat at the table, staring at the words I had written years earlier, understanding their weight in a way I never had before. My phone lit up with a Seattle area code. For a moment, I considered letting it ring out, but old habits die slowly, so I answered. Anne, it's Marcus Hale, a familiar voice said, Senior Project Director at North Shore Dynamics, our largest partner on the integration deal. I straightened instinctively, even though I no longer belonged to the company he thought I represented. Marcus, I said quietly. I'm going through the final transition packet, he continued. Your name is on every approval path, every milestone, every compliance signature. He paused. But I tried emailing you this morning and it bounced. My throat tightened. My access was removed. A deeper pause followed. Removed. What do you mean removed? I forced myself to say it clearly. I was fired yesterday. The silence on the line stretched long. Then Marcus spoke again, but his tone had shifted. No confusion now, just calculation. Anne, you wrote the continuity clause yourself. You told us our deployment depended on your role staying stable until final clearance. I know. Why in the world would they terminate you before the review? His voice sharpened, though not at me. This triggers a freeze. You understand that, right? I do. I heard papers shuffling on his end, urgent now. Did they notify you of a replacement? Did they file anything with our legal team? No. Jesus, he muttered, almost to himself. This affects more than our timeline. It affects our funding release. I closed my eyes but said nothing. Marcus exhaled, steady and grim. I need to make some calls. This is going to escalate fast. All right. He didn't offer sympathy. He didn't need to. The weight in his voice told me enough. And, he added before disconnecting, whatever happens next wasn't caused by you. When the call ended, I set the phone down slowly, understanding the shift that had just taken place in the world outside my apartment. The call came before sunrise. I answered without checking the screen, still half asleep. What did you say to them? Brendan's voice blasted through the speaker, raw and unfiltered. I held the phone away from my ear. Brendan, slow down. Do not tell me to slow down, he snapped. North Shore Dynamics froze their funding. They want written clarification about your removal. They are demanding a compliance audit. What did you tell them? I did not tell them anything, I said. Steady and clear. Marcus called me. He asked if I was still leading the transition. I told him the truth. The truth. His voice pitched upward. You told him you were fired. Yes. A strangled sound came through the line, part growl, part disbelief. Do you have any idea what you've done? I have done nothing except answer a question honestly. He inhaled sharply, like someone bracing against a blow. Anne, you have to call him back. Tell him you were mistaken. Tell him you misunderstood. Tell him, no, do not say no to me, he shouted. You think you can just walk away. You think this is a game. The board is on fire. Legal is circling me. My father wants answers I cannot give. Fix it. I am not part of the company anymore. My voice barely rose above a whisper, but it cut straight through his frenzy. You owe us this, he said, suddenly pleading. You owe me. I owe you nothing. He went silent. For a moment, all I heard was his uneven breathing, the sound of a man realizing the ground was shifting beneath him. Anne. He tried again. Softer now. Please. I ended the call. The screen went dark in my hand. His panic still echoed in the quiet room, but none of it belonged to me. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed with texts from former colleagues, short, frantic bursts of information that painted a picture without needing details. Solent Systems was unraveling. Someone wrote, investors are demanding a call. Another said, compliance just reopened the continuity files. A third message read, Brendan is losing it. I didn't reply to any of them. An hour later, Mara called. I almost let it ring, but something in me needed to hear a steadier voice. She didn't waste time. Anne, the board knows. North Shore contacted them directly. They want to know why your exit was never disclosed. I exhaled slowly. I figured that would happen. You don't understand, she said. The chief financial officer cornered Brendan in the executive hallway. I heard him ask why this wasn't reported to investor relations. Brendan tried to blame HR, but HR had the email trail. Everything leads back to him. Voices murmured behind her, low, tense. What about the founder's widow? I asked. That's the part shaking the walls, Mara whispered. She demanded to know why her husband's transition framework was ignored. She said you were the only person he trusted with the legacy systems. She asked Brendan, in front of half the board, how he justified cutting you out before final verification. I tightened my grip on the phone. What did he say? He kept insisting you were replaceable. But no one believed him. Not after the funding freeze. I stayed quiet, letting her words settle. Anne, she continued softly. He burned every bridge in one night. The same people who covered for him for years are tearing into him now. I am not involved, I said. I know. That is why it's happening. Her voice lowered. You didn't push anything. You just stepped out of the way. I thanked her and ended the call. For the first time in 2 decades, the fallout inside that boardroom no longer belonged to me. By late afternoon, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Ms. Calder. A measured voice said, This is Daniel Price from the Solent Systems Board. He cleared his throat. We would appreciate a moment of your time. I sat down slowly. All right. We have reviewed the situation regarding the North Shore Dynamics freeze. He continued. It is significant. We need to stabilize investor confidence immediately. Your presence would resolve many concerns. My presence, I repeated. Yes, temporarily, he clarified. Strictly until the integration is complete. We would compensate you at a rate reflective of your experience. Substantially more than your prior salary, plus a reinstatement of your bonus in full. The numbers he implied were tempting, life-changing, even. But his tone was clinical, the sort reserved for assets rather than people. I asked, why was I terminated in the first place? A pause followed. That decision was made without board consultation. We are addressing that separately. Addressing, I echoed. Not correcting, Ms. Calder, he said. Urgency slipping through his professionalism. We are offering you an opportunity to return in a position of authority. Investors trust you. Clients trust you. We need you. He did not say they respected me. He did not say they regretted how I had been treated. He did not even say Brendan was being held accountable. He simply needed me to plug the hole he had allowed someone else to tear open. I appreciate the call, I said quietly, but I will not return. Are you certain? He asked. This is a considerable offer. I am certain, I replied. My value does not depend on reclaiming a seat in a room that dismissed me. He exhaled, defeated. If you change your mind, I will not, I said, and ended the call. The apartment was silent again, but something inside me had shifted. I was not stepping back into the world I had left. I was walking toward something else. The email from Seattle arrived just after sunset. I recognized Marcus Hale's name immediately, but the tone of the message was different, formal, deliberate, carrying the weight of a decision already made. I called him back. He answered on the first ring. Anne, I was hoping you'd respond tonight. I saw your message, I said. You mentioned a proposal. We did more than mention it, Marcus replied. Our executive team met this afternoon. We want you as an independent systems advisor. Contract-based, project ownership, full autonomy. I blinked, letting the words settle. Independent, yes. You would not be reporting to Solon's systems. You would report only to us. He paused, then added. Your rate would reflect the scale of responsibility, far beyond what Solon's compensated you. My breath caught. Marcus, that is generous. It is earned, he said. You built the architecture we rely on. We are not interested in patching the damage their leadership created. We want stability. And that means you. A quiet laugh slipped out of me, small, bewildered, but real. I have spent 21 years trying to protect systems other people kept breaking. Then let us give you one you can build without interference. His voice softened. Take it, Anne. This is yours. I leaned back, feeling a slow warmth spread through me, not triumph, but a kind of overdue recognition. Yes, I said, I'll do it. Good, he replied. I'll have the contract sent tonight. When the call ended, I sat alone in the quiet, the offer echoing around me. I hadn't fought for this door. Someone else's mistake had simply pushed it open. For the first time in decades, I wasn't stepping into a role that drained me. I was stepping into one that finally belonged to me. 2 days after I accepted the consulting agreement, news from Solent Systems spread through the industry like a shockwave. The merger collapsed before the board could finish their emergency session. Stockholders demanded explanations in public forums. Departments that had ignored problems for years sent panicked internal memos looking for someone to blame. By the end of the week, a special review panel was announced. Their findings landed harder than anyone expected. Brendan Ashford was removed from his position in a public filing that named him directly. Decision-making negligence. It was the kind of phrase executives spend entire careers avoiding. And now it sat next to his name in every financial bulletin across the Pacific Northwest. There was no quiet reassignment to a different division. No golden parachute. No father stepping in to rescue him from the fallout he had manufactured with his own impatience. For the first time since he walked into my office, he faced the consequences alone. I received a message from Mara. It's over. People are stunned he's actually gone. I thanked her and left it at that. There was nothing for me to add. That same afternoon, my contract from North Shore Dynamics arrived. I reviewed the terms twice, signed, and sent it back. The moment I clicked the final confirmation, I let out a breath I had been holding for years without realizing it. I sat at my kitchen table, the same spot where I had heard Brendan scream at me at dawn, and opened my laptop to begin my first independent briefing. There was no celebration in the air, no triumphant music, no sense of revenge fulfilled, just a quiet steadiness, a clean beginning. My life had not ended the day he fired me. It had cleared space for something better. And as I stared at the new chapter unfolding in front of me, I understood the lesson tucked inside everything I had survived sometimes. The doors that close hardest are the ones that force us toward the lives we were meant to claim.